The following program is rated T for teen for the use of tools and materials that can be harmful to unsupervised usage. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everyone, Mister Waugh here from Mister Waugh Media, and yes, that is my actual name. Welcome back to Season 3, and on today's episode, we got a special build. This incredible looking building on an incredibly small budget. Alright, I hope you guys are ready for Season 3 and are excited as I am, because trust me, I've got some amazing episodes planned for everyone. Now unfortunately, if you caught the previous update, you'll know that unfortunately Mia will be sitting out Season 3. She just has a lot on her plate right now and doesn't have the time to commit to such a grueling schedule to shoot these episodes. Now, she did say she's not opposed to returning in the future, however, she doesn't want to make any promises that she won't be able to honor. So going forward, it's just going to be you guys and me. Now, I want to address something that has kind of been bothering me a lot lately. I've had several of you actually come up to me in person and say, I don't think that I'm good enough to be building this kind of stuff. Wrong. I want to shut that down right now. Remember, that's the whole reason we made this show. We want to teach you guys not to be intimidated. Remember, Mia had never built anything until Season 2, and she did some fantastic pieces. So our message is, if she can do this from scratch, so can you. And that's where we're going to start with today's episode. I made this really nice little building, not to toot my own horn, but all it is just cardboard. $5 worth of supplies from the dollar store, some sand, and some homemade flock. It's simple, it's quick and easy. I would love to see if you do one of these. Send me the pictures, because I want to see what you guys can do with this. Let's get started. Alright, let's begin with the structure itself. And to start with, we're going to do these side walls. These ones will clock in at 2.5 inches in height and 4.5 inches in length. Nothing overly complicated here, it's just two rectangular pieces of cardboard. And on to the front and the back respectively, these will clock in at 4 inches in height, and both segments will be 2.5 inches respectively. Now you can see where the start of the roof begins is at about the 2.5 inch mark. And we'll just cut this with a nice clean blade. And as long as the front and the back piece match up pretty evenly, the roof should go on later on without any problems. One thing to keep in mind is what kind of cardboard you're using. I'm using just a standard one I found in the recycling bin. We can use cereal box if you like, and I will be using a little bit later on, but for durability, regular cardboard should do just fine. Alright, now that we have all 4 panel pieces, it's now time to start constructing the building. For this one, I'll take the hot glue gun and mount the side piece to the front. And then we'll do the same with the opposite side, mounting it in, make sure it's nice and flush. And then we'll put some hot glue on both of these pieces and mount the back piece together. Like so. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. The base that I'm using here is 6.5 inches in length and 4.5 inches in width, and we'll just plop that down like so. You can go bigger if you want, but this should be fine for what I'm doing. Alright, as for the roof pieces themselves, they're going to be 2.5 inches in length, and they're going to be 4.5 inches in width. This is going to be the cereal box here. It is nice and thin. If I use the regular cardboard, yes, it's more durable, but you'll notice it's got that thickness to it. It's a little bit harder to hide some of the ugliness, the guts of the cardboard. You know what I'm talking about. The cereal box just makes this a lot easier. So we'll just use that for now. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to do probably the most time-consuming part of the build, and that is to make our quotation marks planks of wood. We'll take our cereal box here and cut them into long strips. These are 0.5 centimeter in width and various lengths, obviously, depending on what I need. And what I'm going to do is just basically hot glue gun them to the side here. And I guess in theory I could have done this before I glued all the wall segments together, like sort of a prefabrication, just gluing the planks onto each piece. But you know what? I think it's up to you how you want to tackle it. If you find that to be easier, then by all means, tackle them that way. For me, I figured I'd just glue everything together and then put it on piece by piece on camera so you could sort of have an idea of what I was doing. But in the end of the day, it's really up to you how you want to construct it. Not much to really say here. Is basically just me putting strip after strip on here. Pretty straightforward with the wall pieces. So there you go. One wall's done. We'll do a time lapse here. Assume that I did the same thing on all 4. And now we're going to do the corner framing here. So these pieces are going to be 2.5 inches in height, and we're just going to glue this to each corner. So you need 8 pieces in total. Pretty straightforward if my math serves me well. And like I said, just glue them on there. It makes a nice framing for the building, and it hides any imperfections of the end cap and all that sort of thing. So yeah, we'll just go from there. I'm probably going to do another time lapse here. It's relatively straightforward. We're just gluing the pillars onto each of the corners. When you're finished with it, it's going to look something like this. Nothing too crazy, nothing too complex, and it just ties the whole thing together. Alright, moving on to the next step. We're going to do the doors and the windows. Now, these are going to be really straightforward and really basic. All you're going to take is a piece of cardboard. For the doors, I'm going to go for about 2 inches in height by 1 inch. I went a little too high on this one, so I'm just going to trim it down. And the windows will be 1 inch by 1 inch. And basically, all we're going to do is take our leftover planks, and we're going to, well, just glue them into place. This is a very straightforward, almost like a, I don't want to say a cheap window, because it does actually look good, but it's probably the most basic one that you can do. If you want to get really creative with this one, you could add more elements to do, like a frame, and you could do pieces of glass in there. But for mine, I kind of want just a locked up little cabin here with closed wooden shutters, and it's just quick, simple, and easy to pull off. I think you guys will get a lot out of this one. I'm going to use a couple pieces at the top and at the bottom. That's going to be my, in quotation marks, my cheap frame here, just so it does actually look kind of cool. You can see right there, nothing too complicated, but it's going to do the trick. I'm just going to glue that about, I'd say almost an inch up. It's going to get as close to the middle as possible here. Yeah, there we go. So once again, I'll probably do a time lapse. I'll get the other windows. Oh, here's my little door. Exact same thing, right? It's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to bolt that to the front. And there. We've got all of our windows and our door finished. Alright, let's move to the top of the building and start working on the roof. And unfortunately, this is another one of those time-consuming moments, but it is kind of important. A house does need a roof, or so I am told. So what I've done is cut some strips that are 1 centimeter in width, and I'm chopping them into segments that are about 1 inch in length. And basically all we got to do is hot glue gun them, slap them on. Rinse and repeat. Exciting stuff. Honestly, this is all you got to do for the roof. When you're finished with the first layer, you go on to the second, and guess what? You put a new layer down. That's right, folks. Not exactly rocket science here, but it just takes some time. That's all. So, yeah, we're just going to do this. I need 5 or 6 layers for each side of the roof, so I think it's safe to say I can probably time-lapse this one as well. All you got to do is pull off the little cobwebs and chop off any tiles that go over the edge, and there you go. Pretty nice looking roof. Alright, we're going to jump from the top of the building and go back down to the base. For this one, if you work with wavy cardboard before and you ever try to do flock or any sand or dirt effects on there, it's really a pain in the butt because it'll get into there. It's not a flat surface. So what I had to do was take a very thin strip of cereal box and I put it on all the edges just to give myself a nice flat surface. Now I'm just going to slather everything with some Elmer's glue, and once I'm pretty satisfied that my coverage is complete, I'm going to go in there with some dirt from the backyard, a little bit of sand, and I'm just going to scatter that across everything. We'll cover all the surfaces as needed, tap off any remnants, and there we go. Yeah, not too complicated, and gives us a nice base. We'll go from there. Alright, we're going to start working on the painting segment, and the very first thing I did was apply a very generous coat of black paint to the entire model, getting in all the nooks and crannies. Once I gave that ample time to fully dry, I'm going in with some generic brown, and I'm dry brushing it across all the surfaces. Now, if you see my previous episodes where I've talked about painting wooden effects, you want to go not with the grain, but against it. You want it to go up and down instead of following the groove. What this does is, if there's black paint underneath it, for example, it's still going to show through, and it gives you a natural shadow. It's a really nice effect, and it's very simple to master, so I think it's going to serve us well in this. So once I'm finished with the building, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the base here, apply a pretty generous coat, and yeah, we'll go from there once we are finished. Alright, for the next step, I'm taking 1 part brown and 1 part golden yellow to make a lighter sand color, and I'll dry brush this across all the surfaces. If you've seen my previous videos, this is going to be a pretty standard formula for you guys. Once again, I'm dry brushing it across all the surfaces. The lighter the color is, the lighter my brush strokes are going to get progressively until I'm barely working with anything on the bristles. If you wanted to, I suppose, you could go in and start painting individually each plank of wood. You could have maybe a little bit of gray in one particular beam of wood. One could have a little bit more of the yellow tone in it. That's totally up to you how detailed you want to get, but I think this way of just doing a nice generic dry brush across everything is pretty good. We'll just finish up the last little bit here, and this is what your layer should end up looking like when you're all said and done. Alright, we're going to take our previous layer of 1 part golden yellow and 1 part brown, and now we're going to add 1 part white to the mix as well to make a very light sand color. And this will be dry brushed across all of the surfaces, again getting lighter and lighter, and we'll move on to the next step. And for the final layer of paint, we're going to take 1 part brown, 1 part golden yellow, and add 3 parts white to the mix. So this is a very faint sand color. It's like an off-white almost at this point. And there's nothing in my bristles. I'm doing a very light dusting at this point. There's hardly anything there, but it leaves this really nice trace along all the wooden elements. It really makes them pop out. And this is what it'll look like when it's all said and done. Alright, that turned out really good. I'm really happy with the color on this, and it's a nice simple palette. There's only a couple colors that went into this. Alright, now because I said I want to do this on a budget, instead of using traditional flock, I'm actually using herbs and spices from my kitchen. And I'm just going to take them here and grind them into a fine powder. It'd be nice if I had a mortar, but whatever. And this is basically what I'm left with, nothing too complicated here. And we're just going to take our glue that's been watered down, add in little patches here and there. I'm going to put it across most of the base here, and we'll just sprinkle our herbs on there. By the way, this smells delicious. You can definitely smell the oregano in here. It's lovely. All right, we'll throw that on everything else here. Tap off any of the leftover bits. And now what I want to do is also have moss on the rooftop and along some of the support beams. If you want, take a look at some pictures of like nature and old rundown buildings. I got a lot of inspiration from that. We'll just sprinkle this mess all over here. Delicious mess, I might add. And we'll knock off the leftovers until finally you get something that looks a little bit like this. A really beautiful rustic cabin that was done on a huge budget. Overall, I think I only put a couple of dollars in for paints and glues. I got sand and dirt from outside in the yard, and the herbs and spices were out of my kitchen. This was meant to be a nice, quick and easy build, nothing too complicated with the colors, not an overly complex build, something nice and easy. I hope you guys are feeling inspired by this, and if you do create this one, I'd love to see the results. Well, that has been today's episode. I really hope you guys liked it and maybe found some useful information in there. If you did, make sure that you hit the like, the share, and subscribe button down below, and please pass this around to all your friends. We're really trying to build the channel from the ground up. If there's anything that you want me to build in an upcoming episode, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe we'll be able to build it for you in the future. On that note, I've been Mr. Waugh from Mister Waugh Media, signing off.